Hello students, let us continue with our discussion on sensors. Up till now in our course, that is mechatronics, we have studied the basics of mechatronics. We have studied the different elements, what are the different components of any mechatronic system, what their functions are, what are the areas of mechatronic system applications. Then we started with a brief discussion on the elements of mechatronic system. Further, we classified sensors. Then we started with our discussion on the different types of sensors, and the very first one, that is the position or displacement sensors, that is potentiometer, was discussed in the last lecture. In the last lecture we discussed potentiometer, we discussed its working principle, and also where exactly do we use these potentiometers. Now moving forward, again we have a gauge, that is strain gauge, that is another type of sensor which is used to measure linear displacement or a position, and it is a position sensor or displacement sensor, etc. Actually we are very much familiar with the term strain. In strength of materials, we have defined the term strain as change in length to its original length, right? It is a ratio. It is a ratio of change in length in the direction of applied load to the original length, right? And we generally denoted it by small e or epsilon, right? Now, can we say that this strain change, that is change in length upon its original length, changes the resistance of the element? And if it is changing the length, that means it is changing resistance of the element, and hence we can say that delta R upon R is directly proportional to epsilon. Delta R upon R, that is change in resistance upon original resistance, will be directly proportional to the strain, or we can say that delta R upon R should be equal to, when we remove the proportionality sign, we introduce constant of proportionality G. So we can say that delta R upon R equals to G into strain E, that is epsilon, where G is constant of proportionality and is known as gauge factor. In general, the value of G is considered between 2 to 4, and the resistance are taken of the order 100 ohm, right? So this is what strain gauge does. Now let us move forward and see exactly how strain gauges work. The resistance strain gauge follows the principle of change in resistance, right? Now we have seen that since the change in length changes the resistance, so we can say that resistance strain gauge uses the principle of change in resistance. It comprises of pattern of resistive foils arranged. Now the figure shows we have resistive foils. These foils are made of constant alloy, and a constant alloy is nothing but an alloy of copper and nickel, where the content of copper is 55% and nickel is present 45%. So these resistive coils are nothing but resistive foils, and it is arranged so that it forms some pattern. So these patterns are bonded to the backing material, that is plastic, epoxy or glass fiber reinforced epoxy. So we can say that our strain gauge is nothing but an pattern of resistive foils made up of constant alloy, which is bonded to a backing material with the help of a polyamide. Now let us see how does it exactly works. The strain gauges are secured. These strain gauges, whenever we use these strain gauges to measure some linear dimension, these strain gauges are secured to the workpiece. They are fixed to the workpiece by using epoxy or cyanoacrylate cement Eastman 910 SL. That means we can simply say that these strain gauges are fixed to the workpiece whose changes in dimensions are to be measured. As the workpiece undergoes change in its shape, whenever there is some change in the shape, whether it is linearly or any type, whenever the dimension changes due to external loading, the resistance of a strain gauge element also changes. And change in the workpiece, since our strain gauge is fixed to the workpiece, any change in the workpiece will change the resistance of the strain gauge, and this strain gauge detects the change in resistance using a Wheatstone resistance bridge. The figure shows how a Wheatstone resistance bridge is formed, and this change in resistance is detected by this circuit, and finally it is calculated. It is calculated by using a relation, and we know that in a Wheatstone bridge it always has a balanced relation, that R2 upon R1 should be equals to Rx upon R3, where we can say that the resistances R1, R2, R3 and Rx, that Rx is nothing but the unknown resistance, right? The change in resistance. So that resistance is to be calculated by the resistance by the Wheatstone bridge. So we can say that the balanced bridge, we have the relation R2 by R1 equals to Rx by R3, where Rx is the resistance of a strain gauge. Rx is nothing but the resistance of strain gauge, and we know that this resistance is nothing but the occurring due to the change in linear dimension of our workpiece. So R2 is balancing, right now Rx is the resistance of strain gauge, R2 is a balancing or adjustable resistor, R1 and R3 are known constant value resistors. The measured deformation or displacement by the strain gauge is calibrated against the change in resistance of adjustable resistors R2, which makes the voltage across nodes A and B equal to 0, right? So basically we have this relation, that is, it is measured by the Wheatstone. So that is was it's a working principle. And now we can sum up with this, that the working principle of any strain gauge is it utilizes the resistance, the balanced expression of a Wheatstone bridge resistance, and is utilized to measure the change in dimensions. What exactly it measures? It measures change in resistance. That is again calibrated. This change in resistance is calibrated in terms of change in dimensions, right? So let us see some of the applications of strain gauge. We can say that a strain gauge are widely used in experimental stress analysis and diagnosis on machines and failure analysis. They are basically used for multi-axial stress fatigue testing, proof testing, residual stress and vibration measurement, torque measurement, bending, deflection measurement, compression and tension measurement, and strain measurement. Strain gauges are primarily used as sensors for machine tools and safety in automotives. In the present era, it is being most used for detecting or for predictive maintenance purpose. So we can say that strain gauges are primarily used for sensors for machine tools and safety in automotives. In particular, they are employed for force measurement in machine tools, hydraulic or pneumatic press, and as impact sensors in aerospace vehicles. So these were the applications of strain gauges. Let us move forward and see what exactly an LVDT is. So we have studied potentiometer, we have studied strain gauges, and let us move and continue our discussion with LVDT, that is linear variable differential transformer. Now this LVDT is again utilized for measuring linear changes, and whenever it is required to measure some linear dimension, linear changes, then we use this transformer, that is linear variable differential transformer. We also commonly know this transformer as a transducer. So we can say that an LVDT is a prime transformer used for measurement of linear displacement with an input range of ±2 to ±400 mm in general. It has non-linearity error ±0.25% of full range. Now all these about range, about span, about non-linearity, all these specifications were already discussed in previous lecture, right? So let us see what an LVDT is with the help of a figure. Let us say we know that the figure shows that we have an LVDT. It has 3 coils systematically spaced along an insulated tube. We have an insulated tube, this tube, and in this tube we place 3 coils, and these 3 coils are symmetrically spaced along this tube. So in this tube we place 3 coils, but all these 3 coils are, say this coil, and this one coil, all these coils are symmetrically spaced. Next, the central coil, say this coil, this central coil is the primary coil, and other 2 are secondary coil. Remember, this central coil, among the 3 coils which we are placing inside an insulated tube, the coil which is at the center acts as a primary coil, and the remaining 2 act as secondary coils. These secondary coils are connected in series in such a way that their outputs oppose each other. And then a magnetic core. Then a magnetic core is attached to element of which displacement is to be measured and is placed inside the insulated cylinder, right? So we can sum that we have an insulated construction. How does this construction goes? It has an LVDT has an glass chamber. In that glass chamber or an insulated tube, we place 3 evenly spaced coils. Among these 3 coils, the coil which is at the center acts as a primary coil, and the remaining 2 acts as a secondary coil. Now after that we place a magnetic core which is attached to the element of which its displacement is to be monitored, and it is placed inside this insulated tube. Right? So let us see how does it works. Now due to an alternating voltage input to the primary coil, let us see, so we have the figure in front of us. Let us see it's working. So we have the primary coil, this is a primary coil, we have a secondary coil, right? One of the secondary coils is shown here, and another secondary coil is this one, right? So how does it works? Due to an alternating voltage input to the primary coil, alternating electromagnetic forces, that is EMFs are generated in the secondary coil, right? Since we are altering, due to the alternating input to the primary coil, and EMF is generated in the secondary coil, both the secondary coil will generate an EMF. And why this EMF will get produced? Due to alternating current to the primary coil. When the magnetic core is centrally placed Remember, when that magnetic core is centrally placed with its half portion in each of the secondary coil regions, then the resultant voltage is 0, right? So what do we do? The core which is attached to the part whose displacement is to be measured is placed at center of the secondary coils. Now when that core is at the center of the secondary coil, we get a 0 resultant voltage, and if the core is displaced from the central position, then we will get some voltage, right? So what happens exactly, what principle we are using, that the primary coil, if some alternating voltage due to the alternating input voltage to the primary coil, and alternating EMF will be produced in secondary coils, and whenever the core is placed at the center of the secondary coil, at that time the resultant voltage is 0, and if the core gets displaced from the central position, then more EMF is generated in one of the coil, and then the resultant voltage from the coils displaces. We will not get the resultant voltage as 0. Now if the magnetic core is further displaced, then the value of resultant voltage increases. Now all this has been I have put it in the slide. If the magnetic core is further displaced, then the value of resultant voltage increases in proportion with the displacement. Now whenever the magnetic core is displaced, the voltage will increase in proportion, and with the help of signal processing devices such as low pass filters and demodulators, precise displacement can be measured by using LVDT sensors. So we can finally say that the working principle of any LVDT is the production of EMF. That production of EMF produces some gives some change in resultant voltage, and this change in resultant voltage is calibrated to get the linear changes. So let us move forward. We can say that LVDT exhibits good repeatability and reproducibility. It is generally used as an absolute position sensor, since there is no contact or slide between the constituent element of the sensor. It is highly reliable. These sensors are completely scaled and are widely used in servo mechanisms, automated measurement in machine tools. Now this was a transducer which will be used to measure linear displacement, and in case if we require to measure some angular displacement, a rotary variable differential transformer can be used. Right? So moving forward, let us see some of the applications of an LVDT sensors. An LVDT sensor are employed to measure spool position in a wide range of servo valve applications. It provides displacement feedback for hydraulic cylinders. It is used to control weight and thickness of medical products, that is tablets or pills. It is also used for automatic inspection of final dimension of products being packed for dispatch. It is used to measure distance between approaching metals during friction welding process. It is also used to continuously monitor fluid level as part of leak detection system, and it can also be used to detect number of currency bills displaced by an ATM. So dear friends, here we complete our discussion on LVDT. So in this lecture we have studied what is the working principle of an LVDT is. We also studied a strain gauge and its construction and working principle. So up till now we have studied three position sensors, that is strain gauge, potentiometer and an LVDT. So dear students, we will stop here and we will continue our discussion on sensors in the coming lecture. So thank you.